So I always say the same red flags you ignore in the beginning are the same red flags that will end your relationship. But the reality is sometimes the red flags don't look completely red. Like maybe they're burgundy or yellow, all right? And because of that, it causes a person to think, well, maybe this isn't really a big issue. Maybe this is something I can work with. But lo and behold, it still comes back to bite you in the butt. And we have to be very careful with overlooking or rationalizing past red flags. Now, let me make it very clear. I do not believe in the whole idea of see the red flag and run for your life. No, I believe in see the red flag, address it, and if it cannot be corrected, then you walk away. But again, there are some red flags that people don't understand the impact they can have on a relationship, more specifically long term. A lot of what I'm going to list out for you are things that maybe in that initial moment you feel like I can handle this. But I'm going to explain why you should not see it that way or view it that way. So one of the surprisingly toxic red flags that are out there is the idea or the person being too accommodating. All right. So here's what I mean by that. You have some individuals who essentially they don't tell people no. All right. And they're always there to help people, loan this person money, do this, do that, being there for individuals. Now listen, and making themselves flexible for others. Now, on one end, that's a beautiful thing, all right? And it's an admirable trait for someone to be so reliable and they can be counted on. And this is what can put you in a daze or make you feel like this is not a problem. But here's where it can become toxic. Because many times the person who is too accommodating, all right, is the person who does not know how to say no. And when they don't know how to say no, many people have one or more individuals in their life who will take advantage, who will push things further than they need to. But before we even focus on the one who will take advantage, let's start on the first layer of it. If this person is single and they're being very accommodating, it may not become, well, it's not really your problem at that point. It's for them, and whatever issues that they're facing because of it, that's something that they have to deal with. But once in a relationship, it can now throw things off with you and your partner. It can now interfere with what you're trying to do with your partner. So using money as an example, I've seen so many scenarios where the people in the relationship, the couple, they have certain plans with their money. And let's say this guy, his mother or someone is now trying to get money from him. And because he does not know how to have those boundaries and he's always has to be there to help out, he now inconveniences the plans of the couple to accommodate others outside of the relationship. This can create a lot of friction, a lot of resentment, all right, a lot of distrust, all kinds of problems, as well as feeling like this individual, this man is putting other people as a higher priority over our relationship. Now, again, the first couple times this happens, you may not understand the depth of this issue, but you've got to ask yourself, does this man know how to say no? Does this man know how to stand up to these individuals? And now when we use the word stand up to people, let's look at the person who will take advantage. And let's just say, I don't want to beat up on mothers, all right? So let's just say he has a brother who's always needing help. And because the brother knows he's always accommodating to him, he will always push those boundaries. He will always try to cross those lines. And if your guy does not know how to push back, it's going to cause a lot of problems. And to go even deeper, if he does not know how to say no, or he is always feels like he has to be there for people, it typically speaks to a deeper issue within that individual. All right. It could be this, I want them to be there for me because I never had people there for me. It comes from a fear or a desire of acceptance, of a desire of wanting to be loved by these individuals. And again, if that exists, that's going to manifest into other problems in the relationship. Now, it's not that I'm trying to tell you to dictate to this man what he does with his money or his willingness to help people, right? But it is to understand him at a deeper level of why is he so quick to jump at the call of others, all right? Now, he of course there needs to be a level of his that same energy needs to be poured into the relationship is what I'm about to get at. He needs to be able to show you that, and of course I would expect that you're not taking advantage of your partner, but that's what you need to be doing for each other. But you've got to talk to him, and this is why we say you address the red flag of understanding, okay, let's even discuss if scenarios that could happen in the future, how would he handle it? So that you understand you have a man that knows how to at least draw the line. Because you may have a scenario where he's an accommodating person because he can be. He has that flexibility. He has no problem doing it. It comes from a genuine place, but he understands when to say no, how to say no, and not let things go too far, all right? So ultimately, keep your eyes open for this. Again, talk about it. And don't talk about it in a way that attacks it or attacks him for it. It's just trying to understand the source of this. And again, will he be able to balance these things in a way that it doesn't interfere with the relationship? All right. That's what you want to focus on in this scenario. All right. So now the second red flag that can be toxic is the whole, well, you should take me as I am. All right. So I've discussed this in some of the other videos. And let me just say, a lot of what I'm going to be laying out in this video can go either way, right? But we're going to focus on the men, how this applies to basically relationship red flags in men. And I'll have a video for the men flipping it around. But anyways, let's get back to this. So this take me as I am mentality. The reason why this can be so toxic, on one side, some may view it as, well, he knows who he is, he's confident who he is, he bends for no one. And that can be viewed in a very good way. However, take me as I am can cross the line of essentially saying, don't expect better from me. Like, do not expect me to evolve. Do not expect me to make necessary adjustments to make this relationship better. Now, some people may say, well, what if he's already that amazing? Listen, I don't care how amazing anyone is. There's always room for growth. There's always room to be better. And if he has a take me as I am mentality, a lot of times that speaks to or can speak to an arrogance about the person that they don't think they need to be better, that they don't think that there's any room for improvement. And so how can you grow with that individual? How are you going to be able to overcome obstacles with someone who doesn't see any wrong in them? An individual has to be humble enough. And I'll say this, you can be confident and still humble. You can be confident in who you are and the quality that you bring to the table, but humble enough to understand we are always evolving as human beings. There's always room for improvement, and at least we can always be open to whatever areas that may need that improvement, because sometimes we have blind spots, all right? Sometimes there are little things we do not understand and recognize as flaws and issues that are indeed having a negative impact or can have a negative impact. So you want to look for that person to have that level of humbleness to where, okay, I can see where I can be better here. So again, this is an issue that needs to be discussed, because there's gonna come a time in that relationship where things need to be adjusted. That's just the reality of it. And if he has that level of stubbornness, that's going to cause a lot of problems. A lot of problems. And I will say this, though I don't deviate, or I'm not changing my position that this is a red flag. But if you as a woman are going to overlook that issue and say, well, I love this man as he is, I actually don't need anything different from him, just know what you're signing up for. Just understand that you got to accept that this is what you're getting, and you can't think, well, he's just saying that now, he'll change later. No, he won't. Like, listen, I've seen marriages 20 years in, relationships 10 years in, and the man is still the same. And his mentality was, well, I gotta change. I've been like this from the beginning. She knew what she was getting. So don't fool yourself into thinking these are just words and no one actually stays the same. Some people will. And you've got to be mindful of that. All right, so now on to the third red flag, so that's surprisingly toxic, is when he's too blunt. All right? So now, let me give this quick disclaimer. Excuse my language, but I'm a recovering okay. I used to be that extremely blunt person. So I'm a recovered. Let me say that. I'm not recovering. I've recovered. All right. I've long separated from that side of me. But once upon a time, I was that guy who was extremely blunt. All right. And what I can tell you with confidence is that very blunt people tend to look at their bluntness as there's nothing wrong because I'm just being honest. I'm just being real. You know, I'm not, you know, they'll say, I'm not rude, I'm just real. No, you're rude. I was rude, all right? It was rude. And bluntness, again, I'm always gonna give you two sides to this. Bluntness can be viewed in a positive light in the sense that, yes, this person is always very honest. There's no game playing here. They're going to quote unquote keep it real with me. And that can be refreshing, right? But the reason why this can be toxic and really is toxic is because picture this. You're with this man. He's very blunt, all right? And let's just say in the beginning, you like it, you find it attractive, and you even celebrate it to a certain extent. And all is good until the moment comes that something happens that you're sensitive to. And now that bluntness cuts you deeper. That bluntness is not what you needed in that moment. You needed more compassion. You needed more consideration. But this man has been conditioned to thinking there's nothing wrong with being blunt. He has no tact whatsoever. And now, because he does not know how to watch his mouth or be mindful of his delivery in those moments, the hurtful things he says, or because of the way he says it, can now plant seeds of deeper hurt, of insecurity, of this toxic energy in the relationship. So it's very dangerous to make excuses for being blunt. And I say that from both sides. But as a woman who's dealing with this, you got to nip that in the bud from the beginning. We can welcome honesty, but bluntness without filter, bluntness without, not being tactful in the way you deliver the message, that should not be allowed. Because again, if you're going to allow yourself to think, but I'm good with it right now, you got to ask yourself, well, will I be good with it years later, months later, or again, at those times where the situation calls for more sensitivity. And this man has to learn how to speak to you and understand how certain moments call for a different kind of energy right now. All right. So it's important that that's established and discussed early on. But also, here's the thing. If you attempt to address things with that blunt person, because let's go back to me when I was younger. If someone would have came to me at that time and said, well, listen, you're too blunt, you have to learn how to talk to me, I'd have been like, I don't care. This is the way I am. This goes back to take me as I am. All right. This goes back to that stubbornness, that arrogance that doesn't allow the man to change and evolve and become better because they see nothing wrong with the issue. So you do have to understand that in addressing this, yes, if he's unwilling to be mindful of how he talks to you, and forget just talking to you, talks to people, because here's the thing. If he can't control his tongue or master his words with others, he will constantly slip up with you. The issue of being too blunt, and let's just call it what it is, being too rude, all right? It's going to pour over when you don't learn how to get better at it with people in general. So for me, like me getting away from that, I had to learn how to deliver my messages to anyone. It didn't matter if it was friends, associates, people online, whatever. That modified delivery is important. And again, it's not asking people to not be honest and real. It's just asking people to be mindful of how they speak, how they deliver that message. So you've got to address it. And if he's unwilling to fix it, I'm telling you, you don't want to entertain it. And here's what else is also hitting my spirit that I need to mention. What a lot of people who are blunt aren't admitting to themselves is that being blunt is a very selfish act, all right? Again, we validate it by saying, well, I'm just being real, I'm just being honest, that's how I am. But the reality is what we're saying is, I don't want to have to hold myself to a higher standard of how I speak to people. I don't want to have to be mindful of my delivery. I want to be able to say things the way I want to say it, F what anyone else thinks. It's a very selfish, self-centered way of thinking. And in many cases, I'm not going to say all, but in many cases, it stems from a deeper brokenness in the person. Again, I'm speaking as someone who used to be that guy. What I can tell you, I'll be honest with y'all. And I'm not going to say this applies to 100% across the board to everybody. But I can say that when I was my most blunt, it came after being hurt and me literally saying to myself, F the world, I don't care what anybody thinks anymore. I'm going to say what I want, do what I want, and whatever it is. All right? It was from brokenness. And a lot of times people don't want to acknowledge that it almost works in this guarded way. It's hard to explain, but it's a wall up essentially. It's a wall up, and we're not allowing ourselves to be more vulnerable in a way that allows us to be considerate of people's feelings, all right? And be mindful of people's feelings. And once we can tap into that, that changes everything. So that's another reason why you don't want to overlook it, because not only does that bluntness turn into something toxic in the relationship, it typically stems from something toxic within that person. All right, so let's keep this going. A fourth red flag that can be surprisingly toxic, and I really want to talk about this one, is someone being overly or selectively frugal. Let me explain. Let me first start out by saying I think that there's nothing wrong with being frugal, all right? So I'm not demonizing anyone who's frugal out there, all right? Nothing wrong with that. Being mindful of how money is spent, being a good manager of money, all these things, looking for deals, nothing wrong with that. I got tons of frugal friends, okay? But being overly frugal can become toxic when you are the type of person who likes to be more free with money. Understand what I'm saying here. What I have observed in a lot of couples is trying to pair up an overly frugal person with someone who likes to be a little bit more free with their money. And I'm not saying reckless with money, though it can go to that level with some people. But I'm just saying that they like to enjoy the fruits of their labor, right? Whereas the frugal person might be more, no, we got to save, we got to budget. You know, they're sticklers for that stuff. It creates a lot of conflict, all right? I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I have yet to see that couple be in complete harmony and happiness with each other, whichever way it goes. So if it's the woman who's overly frugal or the man who's overly frugal, if the other person isn't in alignment with that kind of thinking, there becomes a problem because the overly frugal person starts to resent, let's just say, the spender, all right? And to them, even though to the spender, I'm not being reckless, I'm just trying to enjoy myself and enjoy my money, to the overly frugal person, that might be reckless to them, all right? Like, it can get that bad. And to the person who wants to enjoy it, always having this person be a stickler for money can really start to piss them off and be a problem. So this is only a toxic red flag if you are not in alignment with that level of frugalness, or at least you are somewhere in the vicinity of the same financial mindset, all right? And listen, it's because success can be found among different mindsets with money. There are people who enjoy their money. They still, invest, save, all these things, but they might enjoy it more than some couples who may be, or people who are just overly tight with their money, okay? So you got to consider that. So that's being overly frugal. But notice I said overly or selectively frugal. So here's another observation I've made that creates a lot of toxic relationships, is where the individual is only frugal when it comes to other people spending money but them. So essentially, they are frugal at the foundation of it in a general sense. But when they really want something themselves, they'll go spend the money on it. But when you want something, oh, it's too much. Oh, why we have to spend this? And what it really boils down to is they don't see the value in what you value. So let's give a little example. I've seen some, and of course, this issue again is more so you're already in a relationship or married to that person. But these are things you can pay attention to even while you're dating somebody. But an example I have is, let's say there's a married couple and the man is the frugal one, all right? And he's saving and they're budgeting, they're doing all this stuff. And then let's just say he's a man who loves to play video games. So when the new PS5, 6, I don't know, I lost count where it's at, right? When the new one comes out, oh, he finds the money for that, all right? He's quick to buy that. He'll drop $500, $1,000 on that, no problem. But then when his wife wants to, maybe it's take a trip, or maybe it's buy this purse, or whatever, it's, oh, we don't have the money. Oh, it's too much. Oh, you're wasting. But it's like, but wait a minute. You weren't like that with when you really wanted something. And this, I can't tell you how much problems this can create, because again, it can make someone feel like, one, they're being controlled in the relationship, like they're not allowed to spend money the way they want to, depending on how the setup is. It can create that resentment of, again, it feels biased and unfair, and all these different things. And so you have to have discussions about money mindsets. That's very important as early as possible. How do we view money? How do we view budgeting, saving? How do we view spending money on certain things? All right? And how do we set it up to where we don't have these problems and conflicts with each other, where we both can enjoy what we want to enjoy and have that balance of whatever financial foundation we need to set as well outside of that. But at the end of the day, yes, overly or selectively frugal can become a huge, huge red flag in a relationship. All right, so now before I get to number 5, real quick, if you want to hear the best piece of relationship advice I've ever received for free, click below in the comment section or in the description. I'm going to give you a link so that you can get that information delivered right to your email. So definitely check it out. I have that for you. All right, but now number 5 on this list. And this one, probably I don't know if I would call this a surprisingly toxic red flag, but I want to discuss it anyway. And this red flag is an unwillingness to take accountability without deflection. All right? What do I mean by that? One, if the individual is not taking accountability for his actions early on, that's a problem regardless. And what you've got to do is you've got to pay attention. If you're not in the relationship or you're early in the relationship, it's not just taking accountability with you. Does he take accountability in his life in general? All right? If he doesn't, that's a problem. But it's not just not taking accountability, which is bad enough. But sometimes people will verbally take accountability, but they'll do so with deflection. It's like, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't have done this, but this person did this. But this thing happened here. But this, that. But, it's always trying to validate their actions due to what happened here. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some situations that trigger us, that lead us to react a certain kind or contribute. I don't want to say make us react, because we have a choice in how we react. And that's part of taking accountability, is owning that we decide how we react to things. But granted, sometimes things can get the best of us. And they are significant contributors to what triggered us. However, everything can't be about something else. Everything cannot be a deflection. And if this man always has a deflection at the end of, I'm sorry, but, if you ain't do this, like, how are we going to get anywhere? Because in reality, it kind of shows they don't see them as the problem. They don't see how they handle things as the problem. They see the source, what they view as the source of their actions or lack of actions, as the real problem. And that means this person is going to allow life to dictate to them all the time, rather than standing up to life and saying, okay, no, I got to do things this way. I got to fight against this. I got to make things happen right now, regardless of what's coming at me. So it's important that you pay attention to that. And when you notice it, yes, you discuss it. Because I do think, again, I'll say this. I feel the need to mention this. I think, I could see some guys who may not have matured or evolved in a way that they understand how to take that personal accountability, right? And when you're dating them or you're early on in that relationship, they're showing that toxic red flag. But when you address it, and everything is about addressing it in a loving, calm manner, not attacking them, not belittling them, addressing it in a way that just says, hey, I want this to be better if we can make this better. I do feel like in many situations, I'm not gonna say all, but in many situations when he really cares about you and he loves you and you come at him the right way with it, he's gonna be willing to make that adjustment. So again, it's one of those things where don't assume this can't be fixed. Just talk to him. It'll project an energy that is more uplifting and encouraging and positive, and now give a better chance for a good result to come from it. All right, so now we're at number 6, and the 6th surprisingly toxic sign is he's not affectionate. All right. So here's why I believe this is really important to discuss. And again, something that I put under the title of surprisingly toxic is because I think a lot of women have gotten used to men who may not be affectionate, that they write off the issue, that they ignore it, it's not a big deal, he's just being a man, all these things, right? And I'm not saying that a man has to be super ultra affectionate. Depending on what you like, and what you really desire in your relationship. But I think when you're dealing with a man who's not affectionate at all, you can't overlook that. Because again, this is one of those red flags where early on you may feel like you can handle this. And early on, you may be okay with being the initiator of affection, all right? And being the one to just go get your hugs and kisses and all that kind of stuff. But over time, this is going to wear on you. Over time, you're going to want to see him initiate or reciprocate affection more often. And when he doesn't, it can make you feel less valued, less desired, all right? As well as one of the most common issues that I have seen in married couples is the complaint of the only time he wants to touch me is when he wants to have sex. So essentially, the man lacks any ability to be affectionate outside of just trying to warm you up for a couple minutes, if even that long, to get you going and get to the bedroom, all right? And again, a lot of these women complain because it's like, it makes them feel like that's all he ever wants, that she's just an interchangeable piece as far as who he can lay down with. And so now trying to correct that issue with this man who was always lacking in affection is going to be extremely difficult. You don't want to kick this can down the road. You have to address it early as possible. Also understand this. I'm a firm believer that someone not being affectionate is not really who they are. It speaks to a deeper issue. And this can apply to both men and women, but we're going to talk about men. A lot of times, people struggle to be affectionate is people struggle to be vulnerable. It's people struggle to let someone in very close. It's people struggle with falling deeper for someone. Because listen, there are a lot of men who have been hurt, not just hurt in relationships, even hurt by their own mothers, hurt growing up, family members, whatever the case may be, abandonment issues, you name it. And this can sometimes manifest into struggles with intimacy. Some people, people handle things differently. Some people become very affectionate when they didn't get any affection when they were younger, but many people, possibly even more people, withdraw more. And they still want companionship, but they don't know how to completely go all the way in. And so it's important that, again, you address the issue, talk about it. But even if they say, yeah, it's just not who I am, I struggle with it, you've got to be able to say, listen, I need affection in the relationship. I'm going to need it later on down the road. So can we work on this? And if they're unwilling to even work on it, that's when you walk away. That's when you accept that this is just not going to go anywhere, because you will not be happy in the long run without this. You got to be real with yourself about what's important to you and what you need in a relationship, and make no excuses for it. All right, so now the last surprisingly toxic red flag in a relationship that we're going to discuss for today, because there's a lot of different things we could have discussed, but I wanted to pinpoint certain things. The last one is him being emotionally selfish. Now, I'm not confident in saying this is a common issue that women face, but this can happen. And what I mean by emotional selfishness is that, it can happen very much so, especially with a narcissist. What happens is this person wants you to be available to them emotionally when they need it. They want you to be able to hear all their issues and dump all their stuff on you. And they do it with the mindset of not considering how you're feeling right now. It's like, no. You need to put your issues to the side and just be here for me. But then when you need them there for you, it's not so much like that. They're not as accommodating. They're not as willing to hear you out. And you've got to pay attention to this, because again, I think that the reason why sometimes this can get overlooked as a red flag is because you may view his willingness to talk to you and emotionally open up as, well, wow, at least he's expressive and he trusts me to talk to me. And yes, that can be a great thing. But is he balanced in his approach? Is he dumping everything on you and making you responsible for making him feel better every single time? Does he know how to process things on his own in a way that doesn't overburden you? Does he know how to be mindful of, okay, well, you know what? She's tired right now. She has a lot going on right now. Let me put this to the side and tend to her in the moment. Does he show that balance? And again, it's something that both sides have to be able to do. But I've seen so many situations where women essentially become the man's therapist, the man's shoulder, but is not getting that in return. And when that happens, again, don't fool yourself into thinking it's okay or this will change later. This is just a rough patch he's going through. No, if you condition him to thinking, and this is another thing that can happen, you condition him to thinking you can handle your stuff on your own, right? But he gets to just dump everything on you, well, it's going to continue like that. So it's important that you establish balance early on and you make sure you're both pouring into each other, you're both there for each other, you're both being mindful of each other's emotions and mental state and mental health so that you guys never wear each other out with what's going on with life and stress and things of that nature. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So there's a quote that says, I can go days without talking to you, months without seeing you, but not a second goes by that I'm not thinking about you. And the reality is that when a man is really into a woman, when anyone